I can't close my legs. 5 words that stopped a room full of killers mid-sentence. 5 words that froze Mario Parson, a man who'd built an empire on fear and calculated violence in the middle of a high-stakes meeting. The little girl stood in the doorway of his private office, trembling. 5 years old, maybe younger. She wore a bright red polo shirt and a tan pleated skirt, clothes that should have been cheerful, innocent, but her dark hair hung in disheveled pigtails, one drooping lower than the other, as if she'd tried to fix them herself through tears. Her face was streaked with dirt and what looked like dried blood, and she walked in that strange, painful shuffle, legs pressed together with both small hands that made every hardened criminal in that room understand instantly what they were witnessing. She shouldn't have been there. Children didn't just wander into the Parson Social Club, past the bulletproof doors, and the men who'd spent decades ensuring the wrong people never got close to Mario Parson. But somehow, this tiny girl, barely tall enough to reach a doorknob, had walked right past all of it. And when she looked up at Mario with those desperate brown eyes, eyes far too knowing for a 5-year-old, and whispered those 4 terrible words again, "I can't close my legs," every man in that room understood they were about to witness something that would change everything. Because the man Brooklyn Moore had chosen wasn't a hero. Mario Parson was a criminal, a killer, a man who'd built his empire on violence, fear, and the systematic exploitation of human weakness. He'd ordered executions over espresso. He'd destroyed families for profit. He'd spent 43 years proving that in his world, mercy was just another word for weakness. But he'd never hurt a child. And he'd never walked away from one begging for help. What Brooklyn was about to reveal would expose a conspiracy reaching into every level of law enforcement. It would destroy the illusion that badges guarantee goodness. And it would force Mario Parson to make a choice between the empire he'd spent decades building and the one thing he'd sworn 30 years ago he'd never risk again. Doing the right thing when it cost him everything. Because sometimes the monsters wear uniforms and the angels wear blood-stained suits. Sometimes, justice doesn't come from courtrooms, but from criminals who refuse to look away when the system fails. Stay with me until the end, because this story will challenge everything you believe about who deserves protection, who delivers justice, and what happens when the very people meant to save us become the ones we need saving from. Real quick, drop your location in the comments. Let's see where this story reaches today. Before we begin, don't forget to like this video, hit subscribe, and comment where you're watching from, so you don't miss stories that expose the truth most people are too scared to talk about. Now, let's get into it. Here's a question that will haunt you through this entire story. If the people sworn to protect children are the ones destroying them, who do the innocent turn to when there's nowhere left to run? Mario's voice cut through the tension like a blade. Out! All of you. Now. His lieutenants didn't question. Vincent, Kyler, Angela. They filed out in silence, closing the heavy door behind them. Mario waited until their footsteps faded, then slowly lowered himself to one knee. The movement was deliberate, careful. He made himself smaller, less imposing, bringing his eyes level with Brooklyn's. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Brooklyn." Her voice was barely audible. "Brooklyn Moore." "Brooklyn. That's a beautiful name." Mario kept his tone soft, steady. "Can you tell me who hurt you?" Her chin trembled. Tears tracked through the dirt on her cheeks. "Ray. Ray hurt me. Inside." She pressed her small hands tighter against her legs. "He said, 'It's our secret game.' He said, 'Good girls don't tell.'" Mario's jaw tightened, but his voice remained gentle. "You did the right thing telling me. Can I see where it hurts? Just so I know how to help you." Brooklyn nodded, shifting her weight. That's when Mario saw what he'd been dreading: dark purple bruises on the inside of her thighs, fingerprint-shaped and unmistakable, more bruising around her knees. The kind of injuries that don't come from accidents. He pulled out his phone, dialed a number he rarely used. "Sarah, it's Mario. I need you at the clinic. Now. Pediatric emergency." He paused. "Sexual abuse. Confirmed." 20 minutes later, in a private medical office that asked no questions, Dr. Sarah Kim conducted her examination while Mario waited outside. When she emerged, her professional composure barely masked her fury. Severe internal trauma. Repeated assault over an extended period. She handed him a folder. "I'm documenting everything, but Mario." She glanced back toward the exam room. "This isn't the first time I've seen injuries like this with Detective Raymond Cole's name attached. Last year, another child. Similar pattern. My report disappeared before it reached the DA's office." Mario felt ice spread through his chest. The child named him clearly. Just like Brooklyn did. Mario made his next call to Child Protective Services. He was transferred once, twice, 3 times. Finally, a caseworker answered with bureaucratic indifference. "An investigation could take 3 to 6 weeks to initiate, sir. We'll need to schedule an assessment, conduct interviews." Mario hung up. 6 weeks. Brooklyn didn't have 6 weeks. He looked at Dr. Kim. "What else can we do?" Her expression told him everything he needed to know. The system had already failed this child, and it would fail her again unless someone forced it to work. If stories like this hit you in the chest, then don't just watch, subscribe. Because the algorithm won't protect voices like Brooklyn's, but you can. Stories like Brooklyn's deserve witnesses who don't look away. Mario walked into the precinct at 9 a.m., dressed in a tailored suit that cost more than most officers made in a month. He requested to speak with someone about child abuse allegations. The desk sergeant made a call, then directed him to the 3rd floor. Commissioner Gerald Hayes occupied a corner office, with plaques covering one wall, commendations, certificates, photos with mayors and senators. The man himself was a mountain, 62 years old, with silver hair and the bearing of someone who'd never been questioned by anyone about anything. "How can I help you, mister?" "I'm here about a child abuse complaint." Mario kept his identity vague. 5-year-old girl. Sexual assault. The perpetrator is Detective Raymond Cole. Hayes's expression shifted instantly from professional courtesy to something cold and hostile. Detective Cole is a 15-year veteran with a spotless record. 3 commendations for valor. Community service awards. "You're sitting in my office accusing him of something this disgusting." Mario slid Dr. Kim's preliminary report across the desk. Hayes barely glanced at it. Medical evidence can be misinterpreted. Children fall. They injure themselves playing. Without a clear statement from the child herself. "The child told me directly. Named him by name." "The child told you." "A stranger." Hayes leaned back, studying Mario with narrowed eyes. Children are easily confused. They watch television. They hear things. They mix fantasy with reality. "Mr. Fox, a fine. Fon's 12. Wenming." He paused deliberately. "I don't believe I caught your name." Mario recognized the trap immediately. If he identified himself Mario Parson, known criminal Hayes would use it to bury everything. He remained silent. Hayes leaned forward, his voice dropping to something dangerous. "Let me give you some friendly advice. Whatever you think you know, whatever you think you're doing, stop. Detective Cole is under my protection. If I hear you've been harassing him, spreading these allegations, interfering with his family, I will personally charge you with obstruction, harassment, and making false statements to law enforcement. Are we crystal clear?" Mario stood slowly. "Perfectly clear, Commissioner." He left understanding the full scope of the problem. This wasn't one corrupt cop. This was systemic protection. That evening, Vincent showed him surveillance footage from earlier that day. Linda Moore and Detective Cole at a restaurant, laughing over wine and pasta, celebrating something. Brooklyn had been sent to stay with a neighbor, already being pushed aside, already being silenced. Mario watched the footage 3 times, his hands clenched into fists. The system wasn't broken. It was working exactly as designed, protecting the powerful, abandoning the vulnerable. He'd have to go around it entirely. The back room of the Parson Social Club smelled like espresso and old leather. Mario sat at the head of the scarred wooden table, flanked by the only people he trusted completely. Vincent, Vinny DeLuca, his second in command, leaned back with arms crossed. Kyler, Shadow. Thompson hunched over his laptop, fingers already flying across the keyboard. Angela Torres sat with a legal pad and the expression of someone calculating catastrophic outcomes. Father Michael Reyes nursed coffee and wore his usual conflicted expression, the look of a man who served God while cleaning money for the devil. Mario laid out everything. Brooklyn's injuries, Dr. Kim's findings, Commissioner Hayes's threats, CPS's bureaucratic indifference. Angela spoke first. If you involve yourself in this, you're painting a target on everything we've built. The feds have been waiting for an excuse to bring RICO charges. This could be it. Then we do it carefully. Mario turned to Shadow. I need everything on Detective Raymond Cole. Everything. Shadow nodded, his fingers never stopping. 72 hours later, Shadow presented his findings. Detective Raymond Cole doesn't exist before 7 years ago. He's actually Raymond Vincent Coletti, born in Riverside County. Name change processed 3 months before joining the police academy. Shadow pulled up, sealed juvenile records. 3 complaints of inappropriate behavior with children when he was 14 to 16. Cases sealed when he turned 18. He opened another file. Previous relationship with Sarah Martinez, single mother. Her daughter Emily, age 7, was removed from custody after abuse allegations naming Cole. Emily disappeared into foster care. Sarah died of an overdose 6 months later, ruled accidental, but she had 0 history of drug use before that. Mario's jaw tightened. Pattern, clear as glass. He targets vulnerable single mothers, positions himself as their savior, gains access to their children. Shadow switched screens. But it gets worse. The network appeared like a spider web. Commissioner Hayes' unexplained deposits, totaling $340,000 over 5 years, routed through offshore accounts. Judge Marcus Thornton, Cole's former partner, who dismissed or sealed every complaint against him. DA Patricia Vance, elected with Hayes' political machine, her office systematically losing evidence. And this. Shadow pulled up dispatch records. Denise Cole, Raymond's sister, works as a 911 dispatcher. She's flagged and buried 17 calls mentioning her brother's name in 3 years. Father Reyes crossed himself. Mother of God, there's more. Shadow's voice dropped. Communications between Cole and Judge Thornton about placements children in foster care being moved to specific homes. Financial patterns suggest they're trafficking kids through corrupted foster system. Vincent slammed his fist on the table. We end this. Tonight. We can't. Angela's voice was sharp. Everything Shadow found is inadmissible. Obtained illegally. We use it. Mario goes to prison and Cole walks free. Mario stared at the screen. At the faces of men who'd turned badges into weapons and children into commodities. Then we find evidence they can't ignore. The coffee shop was neutral territory, a chain place off the highway where nobody from Linda Moore's neighborhood would recognize her. Mario arrived early with Father Reyes, whose collar provided the credibility Mario's reputation couldn't. Linda Moore walked in 10 minutes late, looking exactly like someone who'd been working double shifts for years. 32 but carrying a decade of exhaustion in her face. Her waitress uniform still had coffee stains from the breakfast rush. Mario stood, gestured to the chair. She sat warily. "You said this was about Brooklyn? Your daughter came to me 3 days ago." Mario kept his voice measured. "She told me someone was hurting her. I took her to a doctor. This is the medical report." He slid the folder across the table. Linda's hands trembled as she opened it. Her face went through shock first, eyes widening as she read Dr. Kim's clinical descriptions. Then denial, shaking her head slowly, lips forming the word no without sound. Then anger, but not at Raymond Cole. "Who the hell do you think you are?" Her voice rose. "Ray is a cop. He's been nothing but good to us. Brooklyn's she's been acting out since Ray moved in. She's jealous of the attention. She tells stories. Mrs. Moore, your daughter has internal injuries, consistent with repeated sexual assault. She fell. Kids fall. Ray told me she fell off the swing at the park last month. She was embarrassed to tell me herself. When exactly did this happen? 3 weeks ago? Maybe a month? I don't remember exactly. But your daughter has injuries from ongoing abuse over an extended period. This wasn't one fall." Dom. Linda stood abruptly, backing away from the table. "Ray saved us. Before him, we were about to lose the apartment. Brooklyn was going to have to change schools again. He paid our rent, fixed my car, brought groceries when I was short. He gave us stability." Her voice cracked. "And now you're trying to destroy that with lies?" Father Reyes leaned forward, his voice gentle. "Linda, I know this is difficult, but your daughter's safety. My daughter is safe. She's safer than she's ever been. And I'm not going to let some stranger destroy the first good thing that's happened to us in years." She grabbed her purse. "Stay away from my family." She walked out without looking back. Mario sat in silence, staring at the untouched medical report on the table. Father Reyes spoke quietly. "She's not ready to see it. The cost of believing Brooklyn is too high. It means losing everything she thinks is keeping them alive." Mario's hands clenched into fists. "Then we do this without her." Linda Moore's apartment building was a modest 3-story walk-up in a neighborhood where people minded their business and nobody asked questions. Perfect for surveillance. Mario stationed his people in rotating shifts. Vincent took the abandoned storefront across the street. Shadow set up in a panel van 2 blocks down, monitoring with telephoto lenses. They documented everything. The pattern emerged with sickening consistency. Raymond Cole arrived every evening at 6 p.m., still in uniform, carrying takeout or groceries. He'd kiss Linda at the door like a devoted boyfriend. They'd have dinner together at the small kitchen table, visible through the window. Brooklyn ate separately. In her room. Alone. Around 8 p.m., Cole would stand, say something to Linda. Linda would smile, probably believing he was reading her daughter a bedtime story, being a good father figure. 25 minutes later, Cole would emerge. Every single night. 25 minutes. On day 7, Shadow managed to plant a micro camera in the hallway during a brief moment when the building's super left his maintenance closet unlocked. The angle captured Brooklyn's bedroom door perfectly. The footage was grainy, but devastating. Cole entering. The door closing. 23 minutes later, Cole exiting, while adjusting his belt, his expression satisfied. They had evidence. But Angela was clear. Illegally obtained. Circumstantial. Any defense attorney argues he was tucking her in, talking to her, being a stepfather. We can't prove what happened behind that closed door. Vincent's patience finally broke. "Boss, we end this tonight. Cole works late patrol twice a week. Highway 9 has that stretch with no cameras, no witnesses. Drunk driver crosses the center line. Accidents happen. It would be easy. Mario had orchestrated dozens of such accidents over the years. Clean, untraceable, permanent. Brooklyn would be safe. The threat eliminated. But Father Reyes spoke quietly. If you kill him, the network survives. Hayes finds another Cole. Judge Thornton keeps sealing cases. The system continues. And Brooklyn learns that violence is how problems are solved. Angela nodded. More importantly, if Cole disappears and the feds connect it to you, everything collapses. You become the criminal who murdered a cop, not the protector who exposed corruption. Mario knew they were right. This needed to be surgical, public, documented. They had to dismantle the entire network, not just remove one piece. Then Shadow's voice cut through the debate. Boss, you need to see this. He pulled up financial records on his laptop. Airline reservations. Cole just purchased a plane ticket. One way to the Philippines. Departure. In 16 days. He scrolled down. And a second ticket. Child fare. Same flight. The room went silent. He's running, Shadow said. And he's taking her with him. 16 days. That's all the time they had before Brooklyn Moore disappeared forever. Mario made one final attempt to use the system properly. Through Angela's legal connections, they arranged a forensic interview at a family services center initiated by an anonymous wellness check from Father Reyes, using his clergy credentials. Linda Moore couldn't legally refuse. Tuesday afternoon, Brooklyn sat in a child-friendly room with trained specialists. The interview was recorded. She disclosed everything with heartbreaking clarity. The abuse, the threats, the pain. The specialist's report was unambiguous. Clear, detailed, age-appropriate disclosure of ongoing sexual abuse. Recommend immediate removal from home and criminal investigation. The report went to CPS, which forwarded it to the police department per protocol. It should have triggered an immediate response. Instead, it landed on Commissioner Hayes's desk. 3 days of silence. Angela filed a formal complaint with the State Child Welfare Oversight Board. 3 more days passed, with no action. Then the counterattack came. Linda Moore, clearly coached by an attorney, filed for an emergency restraining order against Mario Parson and all associates. The petition claimed harassment, stalking, and attempts to alienate her daughter's affections. Judge Marcus Thornton granted it within hours. The order was sweeping. Mario, and anyone connected to him, must stay 500 feet from Linda Moore, Brooklyn Moore, Raymond Cole, and their residence. Violation meant immediate felony charges. Angela brought the order to the social club, her expression grim. This is brilliant. Cole knows your reputation. He knows you can't afford federal scrutiny. He's weaponized the law. Everything you do now, to protect Brooklyn, makes you the criminal. That night, Detective Cole walked into the Parson Social Club flanked by 2 uniformed officers, ostensibly to serve notice personally. He and Mario stood face to face in the main room. Cole's smile never wavered the confidence of a man who believed he was untouchable. I hear you've taken an interest in my family, Cole said pleasantly. That's sweet. But here's the thing about playing hero. Heroes have to follow the rules. And you're a criminal, Mario. So, who do you think people will believe? The decorated police officer or the Mafia boss with a vendetta? Mario said nothing. His hands clenched into fists at his sides, then deliberately relaxed. Vincent watched the exchange from behind his boss, recognizing the control it took for Mario not to end Cole right there. Cole left still smiling. His message delivered. You've lost. Stay away, or go to prison. After the door closed, silence filled the room. Mario spoke quietly. Shadow, I need you to do something illegal and incredibly stupid. Shadow looked up from his laptop. That's my specialty, boss. What do you need? What do you need? Access to 911 dispatch recordings. Every call that mentions Cole's name over the past 3 years. Angela stood. Mario, if they trace this, Dawn, then they trace it. Brooklyn has 16 days before she disappears forever. I'm done playing by rules that protect predators. Shadow's hack into the 911 system took 18 hours of exploiting maintenance backdoors and bypassing firewalls. When he finally downloaded 3 years of recordings, the data filled multiple hard drives, thousands of hours of emergency calls. His algorithm flagged 14 calls, mentioning Detective Raymond Cole or Linda Moore's address. Shadow listened chronologically. Calls 1 to 11 were routine noise complaints, welfare checks, all handled properly. Then call 1-2, dated 18 months ago. A woman's trembling voice reporting, inappropriate behavior with my daughter. The caller ID later matched Sarah Martinez, from Cole's previous relationship. The call routed to Denise Cole, who marked it unfounded and never dispatched officers. Calls 13 to 14 showed similar patterns, complaints buried, marked as pranks or misdials. Then Shadow found call 15, dated 4 days ago. He played it for Mario. Dispatcher, Denise Cole. 911. What's your emergency? Brooklyn's voice. Tiny, terrified, whispering. He's hurting me. Ray is hurting me. Mommy's asleep and he came in my room and... Dispatcher. Sweetie, where are you calling from? Brooklyn. My room. 447 Maple Street, apartment 2B. Please send police. Dispatcher. And what's your name, honey? Brooklyn. Brooklyn Moore. Please hurry, he's... Sound of a door opening. Brooklyn's sharp intake of breath. Cole's voice, distant. Who are you talking to? Brooklyn. Crying. Nobody. I wasn't. Call disconnects. Shadow pulled up the dispatch log. Denise Cole had marked the call. Child prank. Misdial. No unit dispatched. Mario made him play it again. Then a third time. Each time. They won. They won, no, they created him. Brooklyn's whispered. Please hurry. Cut deeper. Father Reyes sat with tears streaming down his face. She did everything right. Everything we tell children to do in emergencies. And the system ate her voice. And if you're still here right now, don't scroll past. Hit subscribe. Don't be another person who heard her cry and did nothing. The system ate her voice. Vincent's voice was hoarse. How many other calls are out there? How many other kids? Shadow had already run the analysis. Denise Cole has worked dispatch for 8 years. She's flagged and buried 43 calls mentioning her brother's name. He looked up. 43 potential victims. The weight of that number settled over the room like a physical presence. Mario stood slowly. His voice came out quiet, final. We're out of legal options. Brooklyn called for help. She trusted the system that failed her at every turn. And now Cole's flight leaves in 12 days. Angela stood too, her face pale. Mario, if you do what I think you're planning, you're exposing everything. The feds will come for you. RICO charges. Your entire organization. Mario looked at the men around him. Vincent, Shadow, Father Reyes, his family, his empire, everything he'd built over 43 years. Then he thought of Brooklyn Moore, 5 years old, whispering into a phone in the dark. Then they'll come. Some things are worth losing everything for. Mario planned the extraction with the precision he'd once reserved for heists worth millions. But this time, they weren't hiding anything. Everything had to be documented. Public. Impossible to bury. Shadow hacked the building's security system, ensuring every camera functioned perfectly. No masks, no hidden identities. Mario would conduct the extraction himself, with Father Reyes as witness. They'd go during Cole's night shift, bring all the evidence, and drive directly to FBI headquarters. Thursday night, 11:30 p.m. Linda Moore's apartment building sat quiet under flickering streetlights. Shadow confirmed Cole was on patrol across town traffic stop on Highway 9, at least 20 minutes away. Mario and Father Reyes entered the lobby. The security camera captured everything in crisp detail. They climbed 2 flights of stairs, footsteps echoing in the empty stairwell. Mario knocked on apartment 2B. Linda Moore answered. Confusion, turning to fear, when she recognized him. Odd. Before she could speak, Mario said clearly, deliberately, for the cameras, Mrs. Moore, I'm here to take Brooklyn to protective custody. I have evidence that Detective Cole has been sexually abusing your daughter and that local law enforcement has been covering it up. I'm taking her to federal authorities. Linda screamed. She tried to block the doorway, but Father Reyes stepped forward, showing his clergy credentials, speaking in soft, calming tones about Brooklyn's safety. Mario moved past her into the apartment. Brooklyn's room was small, painted pink, with Disney princess sheets and a nightlight shaped like a star. Brooklyn sat on her bed, clutching a stuffed rabbit, eyes wide. When she saw Mario, her face flooded with relief. You came back. I told you I would. Mario knelt beside the bed. We're leaving now. You're going to be safe. He picked her up, wrapping her in a blanket. Behind them, Linda was sobbing, calling 911, ironically routed to a different dispatcher this time. Mario carried Brooklyn past her mother, down the stairs, past every security camera. Father Reyes drove. Mario sat in back with Brooklyn pressed against his chest. She fell asleep within minutes, the first time she'd felt truly safe in 8 months. They arrived at FBI headquarters at 12:47 a.m. Mario walked through the front doors, carrying a sleeping child and a briefcase full of evidence. The duty agent stood immediately, hand moving toward his weapon. My name is Mario Parson, Mario said calmly. I'm wanted on multiple federal warrants. I'm turning myself in. He set the briefcase on the desk. But first, I need you to call Special Agent Ariana Morales. Tell her, I have evidence of a child trafficking network operating inside your police department. The agent stared at him, at the child in his arms, at the briefcase. Now, Mario said, before Detective Raymond Cole realizes she's gone. If you stayed with me all the way to this moment, subscribe. Because supporting these stories is how we make sure voices like Brooklyn's are never ignored again. Mario was arrested immediately. Federal marshals cuffed him while Brooklyn was transferred to protective services, still clutching her stuffed rabbit. The briefcase sat on Special Agent Ariana Morales' desk, illegally obtained surveillance, hacked 911 recordings, sealed medical reports, everything inadmissible in court, everything damning as hell. Ariana was a 20-year veteran of the FBI's Crimes Against Children unit. She'd seen every variety of monster, but she'd never seen a mafia boss walk into headquarters and volunteer for life in prison to save one child. She started with the 911 recording. Brooklyn's terrified whisper. Denise Cole burying the call. Then the medical evidence. Then Shadow's documentation of the financial network. Within 6 hours, she had enough for federal warrants. The raids happened simultaneously, at dawn. Detective Raymond Cole was arrested at his apartment, still in uniform from night shift. In his locked office, agents found a hard drive containing over 400 videos of child sexual abuse, including footage of Brooklyn. Hidden cameras. Years of documentation. His own evidence condemning him. Commissioner Gerald Hayes was taken into custody at his home. Financial forensics revealed $340,000 in unexplained offshore deposits and communications with known trafficking operators. Denise Cole was arrested at the 911 dispatch center, her computer revealing 8 years of systematically buried calls. Judge Marcus Thornton was arrested in his chambers. His sealed records exposed 47 child abuse cases he'd dismissed or buried. The scope expanded rapidly. Cole was part of a network spanning 3 states, trafficking children through corrupted foster care placements. 23 children were located and rescued. 17 adults indicted. The headline screamed, "FBI breaks child trafficking ring." Inside police department, aided by Mafia bosses' evidence. 3 months later, Detective Raymond Cole stood trial. The evidence was overwhelming: his own recordings, medical documentation, Brooklyn's testimony via closed-circuit video. Convicted on 47 counts. Sentence: 12 consecutive life terms without possibility of parole. Commissioner Hayes, Judge Thornton, Denise Cole, and 14 others received sentences ranging from 25 to 50 years. 6 months later, Mario Parson faced his own trial. The charges were extensive: kidnapping, racketeering, conspiracy, illegal surveillance, computer crimes, 24 federal offenses. The prosecution's case was straightforward. Mario Parson was a career criminal who'd broken numerous laws, but Angela Torres argued an ancient legal principle: the defense of necessity. Mario's actions, while illegal, were the only way to prevent imminent, irreparable harm when the legal system had been corrupted beyond function. Special Agent Ariana testified under oath. Mr. Parson's illegal surveillance was the only reason we built this case. Local law enforcement had spent years sabotaging investigations. Without his evidence obtained illegally, yes, Detective Cole would still be operating. Brooklyn Moore would likely be missing or dead. Then Brooklyn testified. 6 years old now, wearing a yellow dress, placed with a family adopting her. She walked to the witness stand, looked directly at Mario, and said simply, "He saved me when nobody else would." The jury deliberated 48 hours. The verdict sent shockwaves through the legal system. Not guilty on all charges. The jury foreman read a statement. "We find that Mr. Parson's actions, while technically illegal, were morally justified and necessary to protect a child when every legal institution failed. The law is meant to serve justice, not obstruct it." 6 months later, Congress passed Brooklyn's law, mandatory federal oversight of any child abuse complaint involving law enforcement officers. Brooklyn Moore, now 7, lives with her adoptive family. They teach her that the world has both monsters and protectors, and sometimes the protectors don't wear badges. Mario Parson returned to his organization, but something had shifted. Father Reyes convinced him to establish a foundation funded by criminal enterprises, laundered clean, providing legal defense for families fighting corrupt systems. On the wall of the Parson Social Club hangs a child's drawing. A little girl in a red shirt holding hands with a man in a black suit. The caption, in crayon, reads, "My hero." Mario looks at it sometimes and remembers the 5 words that changed everything. Because, in the end, power isn't about how many people fear you. It's about whether you use that power to protect those who can't protect themselves. Is less than #0. 5. Hash. Thank you for watching. If you believe children deserve protectors who refuse to look away even when the system fails, hit subscribe, share this everywhere, and comment where you're watching from. Because real-life kids like Brooklyn don't get heroes unless people like you refuse to stay silent.